Okay, so this is gonna be the first video of how to make your own VRChat avatar in Blender and using Blender and Unity. In the description, I'll add a little link for what Blender version I'm using, what Unity version's needed, and that kind of stuff. I might not include Unity in this one because we're not at the Unity steps yet. But, so you can just click off and then click A and your delete key, and if you don't want to click A, you can, your delete key, you can click A and then X, which is also the key for deleting something. So using Blender for VRChat, you're gonna need the cats plugin, which I'll also include in the description. If you need a video on how to add on anything like that, like cats and etc., also in the description I'll leave a link to how to use add-ons in Blender. Your Blender is not going to be black and white like this, it'll probably just be gray, so just don't mind how mine looks. Once you have cats Blender installed, you're just gonna import your assets. So a really good place to find assets is on ģʟᴜ or VRC assets. So ģʟᴜ is this website where you can find models and etc. They just started adding an affiliate thing, so if you are going to buy a model or anything off of here, just make sure that you take off this part. I'm pretty sure it'll still work. Yeah, just take off the ģʟᴜ part so you can support the creator properly. But you can use ģʟᴜ and VRC assets to find different things. I like ģʟᴜ a little bit more because it has more like customization of what you want to look for. So I can say my max price is 0, and it'll give me like everything, and then you can like look at the different things and etc. If you're not selling the model, I think it's okay to just edit one that you have. But if you're gonna sell it, make sure you buy the assets for your model, because that's what you're supposed to do. So you have the commercial license. But like, I know there's free heads. Godfall's head's free. This is a free head. Like this kind of, I don't know if that's a head or not. You also have Milkware's head on it. Another thing I'm gonna go over is TDA, which I think is what this is. Yeah. So this is a TDA head. That's not what the original looks like. Let me show you. This is basically what TDA is. There's different edits of it and etc. But basically, you're not supposed to be using it in VRChat, so I recommend you don't use it at all. It is a free option, so I mean, it's kind of, everyone has a different opinion on it. I don't really mind using it if it's on like a free avatar and that kind of stuff. But you shouldn't be selling it, end of story. Just don't sell TDA. Like, only excuse I have for using it is free models, but even then you can use like Milkware's head, which gets updated quite often. So I mean, this is a good thing you could use. Or this one. This is also a nice head, but I wouldn't use TDA heads. Godfall's head is also, I'm pretty sure, TDA. I don't know. I'm not really sure, to be honest. It is a good head to use though, so I mean, if you want to use it, use it. And then you have like the body situation. So yikes, I don't know about bodies. I've never really, I don't think there is any that are like free. Panda Bear's a a base that you can use, but you need to buy it. And I don't think there's a like free avatar base or anything like that. Like, these are all not actual bases. Do they not have that in here? Huh. Oh, here we go. Those tattoos. Well, I mean, is this free? Yeah, this one's free. So you can use this one as well. I'll probably include some of these, like, free ones in, like, a section in my server or something. But there are a few free male bases, female bases. The Tory base is free, not for sale though. Like, you can't use it commercially. I know that. So now that I've showed you like different heads, some bodies, that kind of stuff, you're just gonna get those assets or whatever, download them. Then you're gonna need WinRAR so that, like, for example, you can open up these zipped files, which include all of this. So I'm gonna make mine flat-footed. So the difference between high poly and low poly. So high poly is more like it's a, when you're loading in an avatar in VRChat, there's like megabytes of how big the avatar is. This is what makes that avatar that big. So if you want to make something optimized, you'll use lower poly things. So say you're making like a green version of your avatar, you would use the low poly version of the base that you're using. Now, let's say your base doesn't have a low poly version. There is a way you can do that, and I might cover that in another video. If that's something people are interested in, then I can go over that whole situation. But for now, you're just gonna find the file that says FBX on it, okay? That FBX, you're gonna click on this import model right here, and then you're just gonna drag and drop your FBX into this little thing right here at the bottom and click import any model. Now, with cats, the only issue is you can only import FBXs. So you can't, like, it has to be an FBX. So, like, if you have anything else, you'll click on File, Import, and then you'll put in whatever is your file type. So this one is .fbx, which you can import through here, but that makes it so your bones are not see-through. Like, I can show you actually. So right now you can see that the bones are just outlines basically. So then if I click import FBX and I take my, that's not the right thing, and I take my base right here and I drag this back in here, click import, and then I click on this armature, you can see it doesn't import it the way it's supposed to be imported, right? Like, this does not look like what this looks like. Like, you can't see the bones, they're all, etc. So that's why you use cats, so that it imports properly. So Zimpia's base comes with this, like, underwear. So, I mean, you can keep that on if you want to keep it on. I'm not going to keep it on. Which, again, I just clicked my delete key there to delete it, right? That's all I did. I just, here, delete key, that's it. You can also click X and then click that. Now, because we are working with modeling and stuff like that, I'm going to get rid of all the extra stuff but the base because I don't want any of that stuff on it. And then say you want to add a head or something, having so many armatures over time gets really, really annoying because you cannot see what you're working on. Like even right now, it's kind of hard to see certain parts of the body because there's bones there. So at the top of your screen, you can just click here and you can just turn off armature with this little eyeball button, which will then make it so that your armatures are turned off. Now when doing this, make sure you remember to turn it back on, because if you move the armature, it also moves the mesh. But if you move the mesh, or what like this is called the base, like the ZenFit base, if you move this mesh, the armature does not move with it. So if I have this over here and this armature over here, it will not move properly because it's rigged to be like where it's supposed to be. You can learn more about rigging and that kind of stuff in my really quick tutorial. I'm going to go into a more in-depth tutorial a little bit later, hopefully sometime soon. But what I'm going to do is just turn off this armature for now. Before I import anything else, I'm going to go over some other stuff because I want to make sure that I go over as much as possible. So a lot of bases will have this thing called shape keys, which make it so like you can move the mesh. I'm gonna go over how to basically like make these in a second. I just want to explain like what they're used for, how they work, and all that kind of stuff before teaching you. I don't even remember what I was saying, sorry. Like, I'm just going to show you how they work, what they do, and etc. So, right now, this is already pretty fit as is, but let's say you want her to have abs. There's a shape key on here for it already because Zen has made the shape key for us. So, if I do this, you can see the mesh moving slightly. I'll zoom in on her stomach so you can see a little bit better. Upping the value of the shape key will change the mesh. So, another way to look at it, we'll look at her boobs, okay? Let's say I want her boobs to be bigger, so I click on big boobs, and then I turn the value of my shape key all the way up. You can see them getting bigger. See? Now, to make your own shape key, you'll click this plus sign, and then I'll just say like legs. So a lot of male models actually use shape keys to get like stuff without clipping. A lot of female models do it too, but so basically what you'll do, so to do what I just said, you're gonna click on this little Y right here, which will put us directly in front of the model. To move in Blender, you're gonna hold shift and your middle mouse to go up and down. If you're not holding shift, it'll just move your view and won't move your position. Holding shift and your middle mouse button moves your position, and then just using your middle mouse button moves your viewpoint. Let's say you want to move a mesh or something. G is to move, and then you can also do like your axes. So GX will go left and right, GZ will go up and down, and then GY is forward and backwards. And then to go back, simple as everything else. Like say I move it over here, I forgot, let's Control Z. There we go. If I want to move it back, Control Shift Z is a redo button, and Control Z again is your undo button. So, basically when you're making a shape key, what you're gonna do is click Tab and then center yourself in the middle. So since I'm making a shape key for her legs, I want to click this little circle up here. So what these circles are your rendering settings. So this one is called wireframe. So if I get out of my tab, you can see all of the vertices on the avatar. That's what these little squares are. Wherever there's this like little point in between the squares that intersect, that's called a vertice. So the less of those, then is the less like amount of polys your avatar is going to be basically. So I want this to be on wireframe so that I can see both sides, because when it's on this one, you can obviously just see the front, and this is the third one, which is where we'll show like all of your textures and that kind of stuff, but we'll get there in a bit. So for your shape keys, you'll click Tab and you'll click wireframe, and then up here you have these little axes. So x-axis will do, let's say I just highlight this section and I make it smaller. It'll do the same thing to the other side. Now, to do what I just did, right, so I'm going to keep my x-axis pressed. I most of the time do about like here, because you do have to do it in parts or else it won't bend properly. So S is your scale button for literally everything in Blender. Even if you're not in edit mode, like with this little vertices, it is still S to scale. So I'm going to scale this down as much as possible, and then I'm just going to move it up here. And then I'm going to grab this and I'm going to scale it down like this. So now she has these really skinny legs. So going back to our shape keys again, her leg shape keys all the way up. If I turn it down, it goes back to normal. So this is a really good way to fix clipping instead of like some creators, I don't know if people do it anymore, but what some creators would do is they would basically just like take this, and then P is like to separate it, and then selection would be what you have selected. So creators would take it and they would cut the leg, which when you're playing VR chat, it doesn't work correctly. Like in Blender it looks fine, it's basically seamless, like you can only see it a little bit, maybe even not that much if I don't like, I'm not focused on it. But what it would do is when you use light settings in Unity, it would make it so you could see that little cut of where you cut out like the leg. So people have reverted back to shape keys because they're just a lot better. You can also sculpt your base or whatever mesh you're using by clicking on this object mode and then going sculpt mode. When adding clothes and everything, I'll go over like what different things to use, but just for an example, I'm just going to show you that you can sculpt, make like a really gross sculpt, because why not? Alright, so let's say this is my sculpt, right? Let's say that's my sculpt. If I click on something else, it's not gonna work. It has to be on your basis shape key, because that is the normalized shape key. So say my legs shape key, I haven't clicked on that one, it's not changing anything. If I turn the value all the way up and then I sculpt, it will change because the value is all the way up on my shape key. So if my value is not up, it's not gonna change. But if I'm on my basis, it'll change no matter what I do. Before sculpting, I always try to use the shape keys that are always given. Like, I'll always try to do this kind of stuff. When applying shape keys, let me go over that actually. So, like right now, I want to apply the small boob shape key. I'll click on this little arrow on this side right here, and then I'll click apply selected shape key to basis. This will make it so when you import into Unity, you don't need to turn it up in your Unity settings. And then like there's obviously other shape keys, stuff like that. But yeah, there's shape keys for basically everything on some bases. I know Panda Bear doesn't have any shape keys, I'm pretty sure. You have to make them all yourself. But there are a few bases that have shape keys done for them already. So this is what my base looks like. I kind of want to edit it a little bit more. So I'm just gonna, there we go. So this is what I want my base to look like. I'm done with my body base. So now I need to import a head. So I'm gonna turn my armature back on whenever I import anything else. And then I have a head edit. Here it is. And I'm just gonna wait. Sometimes your Blender might like not load properly. Just give it a second. Okay. So most heads will only have one like armature and FBX, but this is an edit that I've done of a head that I've bought. So it's gonna look a little bit different than yours. But basically, you're just gonna select everything that you want to move and then move it. So like, I honestly think that's in the right spot. Maybe it needs to be like a little bit smaller. Proportional wise for VR chat, it's kind of to your preference, but what I normally do is, let me turn off everything. What I normally do is I will try to line up the head like right here to like around where the nipples are. This one's a little more straight so you can see better. Because that's how proportions normally work, like IRL. The side of your head should line up similarly to where your nipple is, etc. Guys, it's more like your hand is the size of your head and your head is the size of your hand, and that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit different, another way to do it. I don't know if that works for females, but I know it works for guys. So now we have this head and we've sized it to how we want. I've already edited mine. You can take this time now, edit yours, pause the video, etc. I don't know if you're following along. If you are, I hope I'm not going too fast. So the issue with this kind of stuff, you can see that this is another armature for a body, which we do not want. Because when we're merging armatures, it'll fuck up our armature and then it won't work properly. So what we're going to do is whenever you have anything that you don't want to move or have like fizz bones in it, you're going to delete those bones. You can do this by clicking on the armature and then clicking tab and then highlighting everything you don't want to keep and click X and then just delete the bones. So the difference for this head, it's rigged. So for heads, you want to keep the neck, the head, and the eye bones. So if I turn off these elf bones really quickly, and this body armature. Oh, the way that I'm hiding stuff, by the way, without clicking that eyeball, is I'm clicking H, which is the keybind for hide. So, oh my goodness. So this basically is what all heads will look like. Sorry, I was reading an announcement. No, sorry. So this is what all heads should look like. They should have a neck, a head bone, and then eye bones, 2 each direction, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So with heads, you don't need the body because there's no body there for it to rig to, so it'll just mess up your other body's bones. So you really just need the neck and the head bone. I'm gonna connect these. So the way that I just connected those, or meshes, like how to connect a mesh, let's say you have some piercings in your face like I do. I have some piercings in our head and this is separate from this. First off, this has so many more, but I'm gonna see if I can decimate it a little bit more. So if I click decimate and then I click unsubdivide and I up the iterations, you can see like what happens. You can see that the vertices go down. Like you can see here, if I click it a couple times, they go down. So I'm just gonna unsubdivide it once. So it's like a little bit less. Like that, yeah. So if I click on one mesh in here, and then I click here, and I hold shift, and then I click on the other mesh, and I click Control J, then that will merge the meshes. So if I click on this one, I can click GX, move it, like they're all together. Something I want to go over really quickly, for facial piercings, anything that's on the mouth area will need a shape key. So because I've already made the shape keys, you can see like here. So what you need to make for your like shape keys or whatever, you need a A, you need a O, you need a Ch, which is CH, and you can see that they're right here from when I made mine. And then like same thing, whatever, like you just need them. Because it's not weight painted, I'm not going to connect them yet. We'll go over weight painting in another video probably, because that's too much for the first one. But this is the time where you kind of just add in whatever you want, clothes and etc. I'm going to go over like clothes and armatures and that kind of stuff, like for clothes, in the next video. This one's kind of just import whatever you want, make it look nice, and then the next video is where we clean everything up. I am going to show you in this one how to add textures really quickly and how to parent meshes to armatures. So firstly, I need to sculpt her head to match with her neck, because you can see that there's this little divot here. So I'm gonna click X at the top so it mirrors, and make sure I'm on my bases, and then just make sure that her neck lines up like how it's supposed to, like that. Okay, so now that her neck is like completely flush against, her head is completely flush against her neck, I don't know, whichever. I'm gonna add in the textures. So what I do for textures, why are these connected? There we go. Okay, so what I do for textures is I make them double-sided in Blender. I don't really care about like the normals and stuff like that. And normals and like metallic maps, they're all to make it look good, which you can just do in Unity. I don't really care about that in Blender unless I'm making a render of some sort, which I'm obviously not making a render here, so there's no reason to do that. So you'll just click on this little circle at the bottom, which is material properties, and you'll scroll all the way down and click double-sided, click add, and then most of the time in your like in your WinRAR that you got your FBX from, there will be textures, right? So then you just drag your texture in and it'll look really shiny. Please scroll all the way up and turn this reflect all the way down. Do not leave your model looking shiny. It's so bad. I'm sorry, but I and then to make a metal material, what I normally do is I will click on this surface and click G, which will just change it to glass, and I'll turn all of these all the way down, and that looks like metal. Which is what I'll normally do for everything. And then to rename something, you can just double click it in your hierarchy, which is what I call this. This is my hierarchy. And I'll just change that to be named. I normally keep my metals as exclamation points because they're always at the top that way. So now for her face, I only really have one texture because Nala still hasn't gotten back to me about it. But face textures and body textures will look like this. They'll look really goofy. I'm going to show you how to re-UV eyes in this tutorial as well, because texture work is really important. If you guys want like a more in-depth situation about that, I can definitely do that, but I'm just going to run over it really quickly in here because I already re-UV'd them. So let me just do what I just did before, import the texture, and then just turn it all the way down. Okay, so hold on, let me... This just gets black because it's not UV'd properly. I still want to go over yet. Okay, so when I was editing this, I have like 3 different faces on here. So if you have a transparent texture, this is a good case scenario for that. You can see how blocky this looks because it's not transparent. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn my reflect all the way down. And then I'm going to scroll down to where it says alpha right here. What you're going to do is you're going to turn it all the way off. You're going to turn it all the way back up. And that'll fix it, and it will make it so it's not all blocky and it'll be transparent. Which I think looks way better. So now I'm just going to take Cree's eyes because they have good eye textures. Do I have it open? Yes, okay. So Cree has really good eye textures. Like I said, use Jinxie, like search up like eye, or okay, well, get rid of filters, and you can get a whole bunch of eye textures that are free, stuff like that. So basically, I'm going to first click tab on her face, and I'm going to click on this eye, and I'm going to click L. Make sure your cursor is over the eyeball, because if I click L on her head, then it's just going to click her head. So I want to just click L hovering over her eye. Okay, so this is selecting all of the vertices that are on her eyeball. Now, if I want the eyes to be the same color, I'm going to do that on this side too. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to select both eyes. I'm going to hit P, selection. Okay, and then we're going to delete all of these. even though I already have one for the eyes. You're going to delete all of them and click this button, which is to create a new material, and you'll name that eyes. Now, if you already have an eye material like I did, you can click this little button and you can just search it up and it'll replace whatever material is selected with that material now. So, let me go here and just insert. I'll just put in the aqua ones. Actually, I kind of like the blue ones, but I'll put in the blue ones. Okay. So for the eyes in Blender, I normally leave it at like 10 because eyes are shiny. How do I edit these? I don't like how big they are. I don't know, fix it a little bit. So when you're UV editing, you're gonna click on what you're UV editing and then click UV editing at the top. And then you'll have these two screens right here. Click A and it'll select everything. So most times, oh, something got messed up. Okay. Most times, the eye textures will be like this, where your eyes are like not on top of each other. So what I always do is I just click L, which is just same thing as we did before, linked, GX, and I'll move it over top of the other one, and then A selects everything, and I'll put it over the eye texture. You can use this one, the scale thing, to like mess around with it if the eye texture is more like circular, more skinny, etc. You can also just click S to make it bigger and smaller, which I kind of want to, there we go. So fit it to your eye and then it should fix it here, which you can see completely fixed. Her eyes are where they're supposed to be. Now, let's say I didn't re-UV it and this eye is not there. Your texture is not going to look proper. It's going to look like this. It's not going to look good. Which is why you re-UV stuff when you want it to look proper like this. Because it's not in the same spot, right? That's basically what retexturing it is. You're just moving the vertices to a different spot on your texture. But yeah, that's basically how you UV edit something. I think I'm just gonna show you how to like connect things now. I'm just gonna add a texture to this eye really quickly, and then I'll show you how to connect things, and then I think that'll be good for the first video. So basically, you need to turn all of your armatures on, so you need to unhide them. And the first thing you need to do is connect your eyes that you've disconnected. So click on head, shift click, and click head, and then Control J in here. Make sure your cursor is over here, not over here. It won't work over here. Make sure your cursor is over here. So now you have your head armature. So these ears also have a head armature. You can keep the head bone. So the reason why you can keep the head bone is because that's what it's parented to. So if anything is parented to something, like so you import like a skirt, right? Let me just draw it quick. Oh my gosh. Let me draw a quick skirt. That's definitely what a skirt looks like. Let's just say you have a skirt, right? This skirt, do I not have a different color? I do, okay. What the fuck? Can I not? Motherfucker. Okay. Well, let's, this is our skirt, right? This skirt has a bone here, 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 and here. And those bones are parented, which is what these little dots are, is the parented lines. You'll see why I made them dotted, to this bone right here. So they're all parented to this hip bone. You would not get rid of the hip bone. If you got rid of the hip bone, you would have to reparent everything yourself, which is a lot of work, and we don't want to do that. So we keep bones that are parents, okay? So to check if it's something is parented, you'll click on the armature, click tab, and you can see these dotted lines leading up to whatever is parented. Now, if this is like a hair, for example, there's going to be a lot of bones. There's going to be like a whole bunch of them parented to one. It's going to be a lot of lines. So obviously it's going to be a little hard to see. But I'm going to keep that head bone, and then I'm going to turn my armature back on. So you're going to open custom model creation in your cats tab, and you're going to deselect join meshes, remove 0 weight bones, and you're going to select merge all bones and apply transforms. So in your hierarchy, what you're going to do is you're going to open your little armature things like this. So armatures in cats go by the green armature name. So if I change this to be base, you can see right here that it changed it to be base instead. So base is going to be your body. Your body's always going to be your base whenever you do anything. And since my head was the second thing I put in, it's armature 001. So my base is going to be armature, and my to merge is armature 001. I'm going to make sure all of my armatures are turned on. I'm going to make sure this eyeball is selected so that I can see everything, and I'm going to click merge armatures. If you're merging something that has a lot of bones, it might make your Unity say it's not responding. Give it a second and it'll fix it, I promise. So now you have the head and the base. A lot of people merge them. You don't have to merge them. You can keep them separate so it's easier for other people to edit it. It really depends on what you want to do. I'm going to keep it separate for the time being because I need to like weight paint stuff, and it's way easier for me to weight paint stuff if I don't have a lot of stuff connected. So then I'm just going to merge these ears. And as you can see, that bone that was there right here went away because it has the same name as this head bone. So now you can see all these eye bones are connected to this head bone, and this ear is connected too. If you ever want to test if something is connected or not, click start pose mode, select the think you might be the parent or should be the parent, and just rotate it. As you can see, the head moves properly with the head bone, the ears are moving properly, and if I move the neck and the head move properly. You can see that these aren't moving, and I'm going to explain that to you in this video as well. But you can see that they're moving properly and etc. So what I need to do over here is I need to click on this. I need to hold it with my mouse button. I'm holding it. Hold shift and then hover over this armature and let go. So then I need to move this into my collection like this, and now it is parented to my armature, which means it's on the armature. So now what you need to do is you need to click this little wrench, which is your modifier. Click add modifier armature. Don't select one yet. Click add modifier data transfer. That's what you would do if this was an article of clothing. Since this is not an article of clothing and it's just on the head, I'm not going to use a data transfer. I'm going to select my armature right here. It's just going to be the orange one in the modifiers is the orange one. So then I'm going to click on the armature, and I'm going to click on the piercings, which are right here. And then I'm going to click up here to object mode and click weight paint. So now you can see that the bones are all grayed and filled in again, and I'm going to click control click on the head bone. So basically how weight painting works is red is the strongest weight painting there is. So if you want something to move all the time with the bone as much as possible, you make it red. As you can see, I made all of these metal parts red, so now it moves with the head. Now the second issue you come up with is the whole like shape key situation. Because we didn't merge them, they're not going to move at the same time. So I'm going to merge them really quickly, open my shape keys, and all of them should be merged now. Why? Was it because it's not... Okay, hold on. So, because they're not, like, spelt the same, it's not going to work properly, so I'm going to unmerge them. This is kind of just what creating stuff is about, to be honest. It's just trial and error. So I'm just going to go and change all of these. I think those are the only ones I made. Yeah. So then I'm just going to merge. I'm going to click on the head and then the piercings. No, I'm going to click on the piercings and then click on the head. Yeah. So whatever you click on second is that the first thing merging to that. Just remember that. So then if I click this, everything moves at the same time. That kind of stuff. So that's basically how you do the first couple of steps of creating a model, which only took me about 40 minutes with explaining. So I think that's pretty detailed. If you have any questions or anything you want me to go over a little bit more that I went over in this video, you can let me know. I'll probably try to release the second part of the tutorial this weekend, but that's basically how you do some of the basics in Blender.